Let's jump right into this. Today's explainer is a story that feels incredibly cinematic, honestly. It's about a man who lost absolutely everything only to find out what he was truly made of. And we're looking at this deeply moving narrative because it perfectly captures a massive trend we're seeing right here in the USA right now. That sudden, totally jarring reality of corporate layoffs and the raw human resilience it takes to bounce back from them. So, welcome to The Invisible Man, a story of resilience and redemption.
I want you to really truly think about this question for a second. If you were suddenly stripped of your title, your financial security, your whole comfort zone, literally overnight, would you still get up the next morning? For a lot of us, it's just a terrifying hypothetical. But for our subject, a guy named Ethan Carter, it became a very concrete reality.
Part 1. The day everything changed. From stability to a cardboard box. Ethan was 32, living right in the heart of Chicago, with a steady office job, making pancakes for his 5-year-old daughter Lily every single morning. Life was predictable.
Until, of course, it wasn't. One cold Monday morning, he walks into the office and the atmosphere is just dead. His manager calls him into a private room, slides an envelope across the table, and drops those dreaded words. "I'm sorry, Ethan. We're letting you go." Just like that, 10 whole years of loyalty and hard work vanished in an instant. Ethan walked out carrying his entire professional life in a cardboard box, while the city of Chicago just kept buzzing along around him, totally oblivious.
Which brings us to part 2, the invisible struggle, the downward spiral. Walking out with that box, Ethan actually told himself, hey, I'll just find another job tomorrow.
But when we trace out the timeline of what happened next, you really see that brutal USA corporate hiring trend we hear so much about. He starts with 1 interview, then 5. By month 2, he has sat through 30 interviews. 30! And everywhere he went, he got the exact same corporate speak. We're looking for someone with more experience. Or, we'll keep your resume on file. Spoiler alert, they never called. And the math caught up with him. Savings dried up, rent was missed, and then, boom, the eviction notice arrives.
Now, Ethan tried his absolute hardest to hide this mounting disaster from his little girl. But kids, they always pick up on what we think we're hiding, right? One evening, Lily just looks up at him and asks, "Daddy, are we poor now?" Man, that question just completely shattered him. He forced a smile, promised her they'd get through it together, but the reality was they had to spend their very last dollars moving into a seriously run-down motel on the edge of the city.
So suddenly, this guy who spent a decade sitting comfortably at a desk was out there doing literally whatever it took to survive. To keep that promise to Lily, Ethan took on some really grueling odd jobs. We're talking moving heavy boxes, scrubbing office floors, delivering food in the pouring rain. He swallowed his pride completely because, well, his daughter's survival depended on it.
Moving to Section 3, a familiar face, and really the climax of the grind. It's a freezing, miserable, rainy night in downtown Chicago.
Ethan is just utterly exhausted. His shoes are soaked through, he hasn't eaten all day, and he's delivering a food order to this super high-end luxury apartment building. He climbs the stairs, standing there dripping wet with the bag of food, and the door opens. A wealthy businessman is standing there. The guy looks at the food, looks up at Ethan, stops dead in his tracks and says, "Wait, I know you." And guys, in that split second, the entire trajectory of Ethan's life shifted.
Talk about an incredible twist of fate, right? This highly successful businessman was once a nervous 22-year-old intern at Ethan's old company. And back in the day, when Ethan actually had the time and the status, he had spent months patiently mentoring this kid. The businessman took one look at Ethan's soaking wet clothes and just knew something was terribly wrong. And for the very first time, Ethan broke down and told someone the truth about the layoff, the eviction, the motel, losing everything.
The businessman didn't just give him a massive tip and send him on his way. He reached right into his pocket and handed Ethan a business card for a management position at his own company. Full benefits, a totally fresh start. Ethan, standing there crying, holding this absolute lifeline, just asks, "Why me?" And the response? "Because when I was nobody, you treated me like somebody."
Which leads us to Chapter 4, Paying It Forward. A promise kept. Ethan didn't even hesitate. He marched straight back out into the rain, went to that cramped motel room, looked his little girl in the eyes, and told her they were finally going home.
Now, obviously, things didn't magically fix themselves overnight. It took years. As we trace his career over the next phase of his life, you see that Ethan worked harder than he ever had before. He climbed from manager to director, and eventually he saved up enough to launch his very own small business. He successfully rebuilt his life entirely from scratch.
But here is what's really cool. He never forgot those cold, concrete sidewalks. He never forgot what it felt like to have absolutely nothing and be totally invisible. So when he became the boss, he instituted a wildly different hiring philosophy. Instead of following the usual USA corporate trend of demanding absolute perfection and zero resume gaps, he bucked the system. He actively looked for people with gaps, people who had been rejected 30 times, people who just needed one single person to say, "I believe in you."
There's this great story where a young guy walks into Ethan's office. The kid's clothes are worn out, his resume is super thin, no real experience at all. Ethan asks him why you should hire him, and the kid honestly admits he has no idea. Ethan just smiles and says, "That's okay, I do." That kid ended up becoming his top employee. And when people would ask Ethan why he gave second chances to the folks everyone else threw away, he hit the nail on the head. Because somebody once gave me one.
Part 5, Redefining Success. The ultimate lesson. Fast forward a bunch of years, and Lily is now a young woman graduating from college. Ethan is sitting right there in the front row, just beaming with pride.
When she walks off that stage, she finds him, hugs him tightly, and whispers that he kept his promise to always be there. And looking at her, Ethan realized something huge. He used to think success was all about the external stuff, the big house, the perfect job, the flawless resume. But his new belief, forged in the fire of losing literally everything, was entirely different. Success wasn't what he built, it was the empathy, the character, and the resilience he developed, and how he used that to lift up other people.
I think this beautifully sums up the core message of today's explainer. Sometimes life doesn't break you down just to punish you. Sometimes it strips away everything you thought you desperately needed, just so you can finally figure out what you're actually capable of. The man who once walked through Chicago carrying a cardboard box had transformed into the man who helped other people carry theirs.
So as we wrap up, if you're watching this right now and you are going through a difficult season yourself, if you feel invisible or forgotten or like you're stuck while everyone else is moving forward, don't you dare quit. Remember Ethan's story. Your worst day absolutely does not have to be the end of your story. It might just be the very beginning of it. So ask yourself, is today the first page of your comeback? Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep pushing forward.